Today we are going to be making the best sourdough chocolate chip cookies. You guys are going to love this recipe. It is made with some of the best flavors like brown butter and sourdough discard. After they bake, they are slightly crispy on the edges, ooey gooey and chewy in the center, packed full of your favorite chocolate, and for a little bit of contrast, sprinkled with sea salt on top, and serve warm with a glass of cold milk. You cannot go wrong. So make a batch for your friends or save them for yourself. I won't tell. Grab your sourdough discard and let's get started. First off, we are going to add one of the best tasting ingredients, brown butter. If you have never had brown butter before, it adds this delicious nutty flavor to your sourdough chocolate chip cookies, and they are the best. First, we want to heat a frying pan to medium heat. Melt 226 grams or 1 cup of unsalted butter while stirring occasionally. Once the butter is completely melted, you will notice that the butter will start to bubble and foam. Continue to mix until you notice amber specks in the butter. This will take about 2 to 3 minutes for the butter to brown. Once complete, remove the butter from the heat and pour into a large glass bowl. You should be left with 180 grams of browned butter. Leave your butter to cool for at least 30 minutes. If your butter does harden, that's fine. It's going to taste just as good. While the butter cools, let's prepare our dry ingredients. First, grab a medium-sized bowl and your kitchen scale. We're going to add 355 grams or 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. For our leaveners, we're going to add 4 grams or 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 6 grams or 1 teaspoon of baking soda. For a bit of contrast, add 4 grams or 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Give that a whisk and set that to the side. Once your butter has come to room temperature, it's time to prepare the wet ingredients. First, let's add our sugars. We're going to add 200 grams or 1 cup of white sugar. Then we're going to add 220 grams or 1 cup of light brown sugar. When adding your light brown sugar, just crumple it in your hand to make sure that there's no hard pieces. Next, we're going to add 200 grams or 3/4 of a cup of sourdough discard. You can use active starter, just make sure that you use the same amount in grams. Then we're going to add 8 grams or 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now we're going to add 2 egg yolks. I like to use 2 bowls to separate my egg whites from my egg yolks. Now don't throw away those egg whites. You could use it for recipes like a meringue or for like a chiffon cake, just like my sourdough tres leches or my sourdough Twinkie recipe is also really delicious. Stir until nice and smooth. Grab your dry ingredients and gradually add them into your wet mixture, then stir with a rubber spatula. I love that this recipe doesn't require a stand mixer or a hand mixer. Simply mix up your ingredients and you got a delicious sourdough treat. Now for my favorite part, the chocolate chips. I absolutely love chocolate chunks. You just get a better bite of chocolate in every cookie, but you could use milk chocolate chips, you could use white chocolate chips, dark chocolate, your choice. We're going to add 150 grams or 1.5 cups of chocolate chips. Mix until combined. Oops, I ran away. For each cookie, we're going to scoop 70 grams or about 3 tablespoons of cookie dough. I like to use a cookie scoop and my kitchen scale to get the most exact amount. Perfect. Roll until smooth and place on a cookie sheet. Continue to do that with the rest of the cookie dough. You're going to get about 21 sourdough cookies. This is my second batch of cookies today. My husband loves me because we're gonna have some later. If you're not quite ready to bake, you can always shape these cookies and freeze them. They make delicious late night snacks whenever that sweet tooth comes on. If I were you, I would flash freeze them on a baking sheet. Then once they're solid, you can place them in a freezer safe bag and store them for up to 3 months. It makes for a really quick and delicious sourdough treat. For a little finishing touch, I love to top each cookie with just a couple bits of either chocolate chunks or chocolate chips. We're gonna pop these into the fridge for at least 2 hours. However, I do suggest that you keep them in the fridge overnight. The starter continues to ferment and it really develops the flavor. For a long fermentation option, you can keep these cookies in your fridge for up to 3 days. Be sure not to skip this step. Otherwise, if you bake them right away, you end up with this pool of cookies and nobody wants that. So pop them in the fridge, covered for at least 2 hours. I prepped these cookies the night before. And you're gonna place 5 of them on a rimmed baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I tend to stick with just 5 because they tend to spread out a bit when they are baking and we don't want them to touch. When ready to bake, preheat your oven to 375. Place the cookies in the hot oven and bake for 11 to 13 minutes or until the edges just turn golden brown. One tip to get the perfect round cookies is to use the backs of 2 spoons. Now you don't have a lot of time after pulling out your cookies from the hot oven because they will set when they are cooling pretty quickly. And just like that, you have the best chewy sourdough chocolate chip cookies. Forget Toll House. Once you start making these sourdough cookies, you're never gonna wanna go back. They're slightly crispy on the edges and the center is so chewy. It is a chocolate lover's dream. I hope you enjoy this recipe. Be sure to like and subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!